Welcome to As I Live and Grieve, a podcast that tells the truth about how hard this is. We're glad you joined us today. We know how hard it is to lose someone you love and how well-intentioned friends and family try so hard to comfort us. We created this podcast to provide you with comfort, knowledge, and support. We are grief advocates, not professionals, not licensed therapists. We are you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back again to another episode of As I Live and Grieve. I so love saying hi and greeting everyone and welcoming you back. But you know, when I get to the end of the episode, I don't like that part much. So let's not waste any time today. Today with me is Liz Peterson. Well, Liz, welcome so much and thanks for taking time to join me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Now, I went on your website and just to get a little more background about you and everything. And the first phrase that really caught my eye was that you describe yourself as a seer, seeker, and a spiritual explorer. I might have thought they were all one and the same. Can you kind of distinguish them a bit for the listeners?
Sure. What a great question. Thank you. A seer is someone who has psychic abilities that can see on the other side, see across the veil, see beyond, work with spirit, get channeled information. I work with my clients all the time, either in a, personal coaching session where we're doing that intuitive coaching, where I'm using my intuition, my psychic abilities to work with the client and give them a little extra information. I also do that the first 30 minutes of my healing session. So that comes in handy also for life. I think it's a great tool to have in my toolkit for being able to navigate life. A seeker is someone who's on a spiritual path, someone who is seeking spirituality, seeking more meaning in life, is really determined to figure out what is this life. And I knew from a very young age that we were way beyond this physical reality and that we did have access to the other side. And what did that look like? I've always been super curious about that. Thank you. And what was the third thing? I'm forgetting now. Seer, seeker, and
spiritual explorer. The spiritual explorer.
So the spiritual explorer, for me, I am just a personal development and spirituality geek, I like to call myself. I have been listening and reading book after book ever since I was in my 20s. And my teens, I was drawn to everything metaphysical and all the books about ghosts and spirits and stuff like that. And very much in my adult life, following, having Ram Dass's book hit my lap at 21 and different things. So really having that curiosity about life and that seeking out of what is on the other side and what is this that I see and where does my information come from? So really seeking out information. And, now we're in the tech age right now. It's really opened up with podcasts.
Yeah.
Before podcasts started, I was listening to the video interviews that we had online also. So always just this thirst for information when it came to metaphysics or personal development.
Yeah, that I love your explanation and clarification of those words. And I think, that they all sound mystical, but they sound so intriguing to me. Now, I have to offer my little, I'll call it a toddler disclaimer because that's the only thing I can think of. My brain is a little more analytical, a little more scientific. And my exposure to this point, other than talking with guests like yourself, but my actual personal exploration has been limited to almost, again, I'll use a silly phrase, Hollywood type of seers, maybe hypnotists or people that might do a tarot card reading or something like that. And I have this intense skepticism because nothing has really nailed it for me that has really convinced me beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody is really getting something from the other side specific to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
Okay. So I will start out by offering that disclaimer and saying, so forgive me if I ask a question that might seem as though I'm intently probing, but I have such a curiosity about this, and I want so much to believe that the people I've lost, for example, can really communicate with me. So how might someone like me work toward finding that undoubtable proof other than saying, I want to hear something, I want to feel something, I want to see something.
And we all want to see something and feel something and hear something when we lose a loved one, don't we? When I lost people in my
Right, we
past,
do.
or losing my mother last year in February, that was the first thing I wanted to experience. I wanted to know that she was safe on the other side, that she was at peace. And I did automatically
Mm-hmm.
start receiving information. Had I received information in the past from friends and loved ones? Yes, I had many dream visitations when a friend from high school passed, or a past roommate of mine from my 20s when he passed. He showed up in a dream of mine. I like to call them dream visitations. It's where they come and they show up and they say
Okay.
hello and they give us a message. And my mother shows up in that way for me. I just had a dream about her a couple nights ago where, she was offering me a little tidbit of information. Sometimes, she doesn't say anything at all. She's just sitting in the dream. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, for skeptics, for people who don't experience this, just be open and curious to it. Think of yourself as that little child
Yeah.
who's exploring the world and is curious about the other side, because not only is it very soothing for us, it eases our grief around our past loved ones. It eases that suffering. It reconciles the grief. It lets us
Mm-hmm.
know that the energy of our loved one continues on, and that comforts us. It's very comforting to know that our loved one is still
Right.
around, that they've passed over on the other side, that they're at peace, that they're not struggling or stuck in limbo or whatever our minds might fathom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're okay. And that's really what our heart wants to
Yeah.
know, is that our loved ones are okay. So I would say just get
Right.
curious, get still. I've even told my clients, ask for a sign, and if you see a butterfly and you're thinking mom, that very much is from mom. It goes hand in hand.
Good. And that was my other part of the question. It's entirely possible that signs have been presented to me, but because I'm so skeptical and so doubtful and trying so hard, maybe I'm missing them and not seeing them for signs. So, like you just said, if you see something and you happen to be, now is it like at that moment or in, recent moments thinking about that person, that it probably is a sign?
Yes. Those moments that we have where we're like, we see something and it seems like a coincidence or a synchronicity and we blow it off. Those are the moments where we have to go, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't blow this off. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe I can get curious and
Okay.
up to the fact that this quite possibly could be my mother or father, husband or wife, child trying to give me a sign through, whether that be nature, butterflies and birds and
Mhm.
hummingbirds and dragonflies. Lots of people see birds. My mother's sign to me is a hummingbird. A lot of people see cardinals. I heard a beautiful story in an interview a couple of
Exactly.
months ago where blue jays showed up at the house. There's many, many ways. I have electricity, flashing lights or flickering lights. My
Mhm.
printer likes to cycle. My TV volume. My son was over to visit for a couple nights and he was watching TV and the volume dipped and raised up again 2 nights in a row. Didn't last for very long. He thought it was very odd. And I'm like, that's my mom saying hi. Like, you're visiting. She wants, to say hi to you. It shows up in little ways like that. It's just that we have to be open instead of blowing it off. Kind of like when we get a gut feeling, oh, I shouldn't do this, and we ignore our gut feeling, and then something happens around the this
Mm.
that we're trying to, decide about, and then we're, kicking ourselves, going, oh, I should have
Yes,
listened to that thought that popped in my head, right? It's that same energy.
that is so curious. Now, in my family, of course, my mother's very favorite bird was the cardinal, in fact. And we have a lot of cardinals in our backyard. We have several couples of cardinals, male and female, together that will kind of stay together and everything and visit at the same time. And we're always very comfortable with saying, well, that's mom, that's Gigi, that's grandma. And I've accepted that, though at times I say, no, is it really? And then I say, okay, it is, it is. But that's a living creature that can come into my life now and then. For my husband, if I had to think of something, several things about him. He was retired Army. So anytime I kind of see a flag that I normally wouldn't see. Every time I happen to be at a soccer game for my grandson, and I was just there last night, of course, they play the national anthem, and I just felt so much more filled with intense pride than I would normally for the national anthem. And I thought, well, gee, I wish Tom could be here to see this game. So I had that thought of him. Are those type of feelings that I get when the feeling is more intense, is that due to a sign?
Yes, that can be. And that can be that they're with us and they're impressing their energy upon us. Like your thought, for example, where it said, oh, it
Okay.
would be really nice if he was here to see this game right now. He probably was
Yeah.
100% there in spirit, standing next to you watching the game. And we do have those moments where, we, like you, saw the flag and it reminds you of him. So that
Mm-hmm.
triggers that love that you have in your heart
Immediately.
for him immediately. Those are spaces where
Mm-hmm.
we're like, this love continues on for us. Like my sister saw these cute chairs that were redone in this colonial blue, and she sent a picture to all of us. And, that this just reminded me of mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then that brings those heartstrings, those feelings up around mom. And then as we think about mom might get triggered and come in from that intent around, oh, this reminds me of mom. My heart is open right now. I'm really feeling this. That could actually trigger her energy to actually step into our lives. And going back to the soccer game, when you were thinking that, oh gosh, it'd be really nice if he was here. I'm going to say he was
Yeah.
very much there watching the soccer game. I really feel like he does watch over you and the family.
So some of it may not be so much that the signs aren't there. It may be that I am not recognizing them as signs. I'm not accepting them as signs. And what you said recently in your phrases there, I also caught that if I have a memory, and one of his other passions was hot sauce. If I happen to be in a diner and I see a bottle of hot sauce on the table, of course, I immediately think of him. So if you have a memory of someone you've lost and you focus on that memory, you're saying that that may allow them that opportunity at that moment to be a presence there with you. Is that correct?
That's correct. We always have access to our loved ones. And when we see something like the hot sauce on the table and we think of them, we can, with our energy, since our energy is reaching out to their energy, can make that connection through that memory. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I really
Okay.
appreciate that because that is an invitation
Okay.
to connect with our loved ones. When our heart is open, our energy increases, our vibration increases, and that allows their energy to easier connect with us. When we think of them, when we ask, mom, can you be here with me? Or honey, can you be here with me? I'm going through a really difficult time. It invites their energy in. We are energetic beings. I'm an energy healer. I work with the aura and the chakras, and I know that we are
Mm-hmm.
energy bodies.
Mm-hmm.
All of this air that's around us is energy. And through this, like I like to call
Mm-hmm.
plasma field, the greater field of existence,
Mm-hmm.
our energy can pass through that field not only to physical people in this reality, but
Mm-hmm.
also to spirit over on the other side because they continue to be energy. That soul is energy and continues over on the other side. So we can make connection.
Mm-hmm.
All we need to do is ask or have that thought.
Wow. I'm learning a lot. And I said to you before we even pushed the record button, I'm going to learn a lot today. I knew that. I sensed that. And I'm getting very, very excited about this possibility. So I'm going to say to our listeners, and then you correct me if I don't get it right, that if so many people that are grieving want so badly to connect with the person they've lost, that one of the ways that may help you do it, especially if you're a skeptic like me, is to merely sit in a quiet area. Maybe no distractions would be helpful. And just start replaying memories of them through your mind and focus on the memories, especially good ones, especially happy ones. That's just a theory. And that by doing that and by focusing on that, that may make it easier for them to start to connect with you. Now, You may not recognize it happening right away, I'm going to guess, but if you try to do that, even on a daily basis, that may start to open whatever the pathway is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And what happens when we get quiet is we move our intellectual mind out of the way and we allow for a different experience. I always recommend start meditating, sit in the quiet for a little
Okay.
while, center on yourself, listen, start a practice of being mindful, start a practice of listening, start a practice of paying attention. When we start paying attention, then we start recognizing, oh, I was just thinking about my husband and I just found a penny on the ground. Or I was just thinking about my
Mm-hmm.
mom and I just found a feather on the ground. Or I was just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about mom and that cardinal just flew by my car. It's those things that happen when we allow ourselves to get
Okay.
quiet and get peaceful and to allow
Mm-hmm.
ourselves to have a different perception of life, to have a different experience around
Okay.
life and to open up to that experience and bring it in. I think that when we experience
Okay.
death in our lives, it really opens us up to being curious about what is the other side, what happens to our energy, our soul
Right.
when we pass. It starts to open up that door also to communication. You know, if we're lucky enough to have those
Mm-hmm.
signs, I communicated with my mother before she passed away and said, hey, I have this ability, and, come around and try to show me some signs and I'll know it's you. And she very much right
Mm-hmm.
away, that very next day was sending me a hummingbird. I had just moved 2 weeks prior. I did not have my hummingbird feeders up yet. And there it was at the window.
Wow.
And I saw its shadow on the sun drenched door in front of me. And just this peace and
Mm-hmm.
ease came over me. It's like, oh, thank you, mom. Like, I know that's you, and you are telling me that you are okay, and you have transitioned in peace, and you are on the other
Mm.
side.
Okay. Now, you mentioned at the start when we were first going about dreams. My husband appears in a number of dreams that I have, but I have to say, these are pretty bizarre dreams. So they're really nothing that I really want to focus on and remember. They may be a little scary, certainly dreams that make me uncomfortable in many ways. What feedback or information do you have to offer me about something like that?
Dreams are really important in our lives. They're a way for us to get in touch with that realm within us and outside of us that's beyond the physical, right? It allows us to get in touch with our intuition in our lives. So what I do personally is I keep a dream journal. I also have a book that Kevin
Okay.
Todeshi wrote that I interviewed him on my podcast, Raise the Vibe with Liz, and he deciphers dreams. He studies Edgar Casey's work, who is very much into dreams and dream work. So I
Right.
recommend keeping a dream journal, writing down the little tidbits that you remember about your dream and see if there's any messages. Go on your computer, go on Google, and Google, what does this mean in a dream? I was in a kitchen in the dream, or I was in the bathroom in the dream, or there
Oh.
was this green vase in the dream, or something like that. Really search out, like, what is my subconscious trying to tell me in the dream? Am I processing something? Is there a message from my loved one, especially if your loved one is in the dream? In a recent one, my mother was holding up a
Mm-hmm.
gold ring and she was standing next to my hope chest that she and my father gave me when I was a little girl. So, researching,
Mm-hmm.
what those items might mean, online, and researching myself. What do those items mean to me in my life? Either
Okay.
what is she
All right.
trying to relate to me or what is my subconscious trying to relate to me? I also get a lot of precognition dreams and stuff like that. And I'm noticing that mom's kind of playing a role
Mm-hmm.
now that she's passed on in like relaying those
Right.
messages to me about my life and how she's supporting me. And the other night I woke up with a song, the lyrics, I'm your biggest fan is the part of the song that I remembered. And I very
Mm-hmm.
much know that that's her like giving me a message in my dream as I'm waking up
Right.
in the morning.
All right. So don't just ignore a strange dream. There could still be a message in there. I think I have a new research project now, perhaps. Now, Google, I know that there are not just Google, but the internet in general. There are many, many sites that may not be the best ones to visit. Is there a particular website or such that you maybe could recommend for people that might be trying to identify symbols that might be in their dreams?
I would just go on any search engine that you prefer to use and just type in what it was in
Okay.
your dream that you wanted to search and have dream next to it, or seeing this bird in a
Okay.
dream or something like that. My favorite is going to my go-to book. So there's lots of books at the library and available now that we can buy that have lists of all the different things and that we dream about, colors and objects and places and
Really?
things. And we just look up like a dictionary, what it is in the book, and it'll give an explanation. And then we have to decide for ourselves if that resonates with us or not. And along with that, look
Okay.
at yourself and, like if it's a person in your dream, what does that person represent in my life? So how would that
Okay.
attribute to my life? What is my subconscious trying to tell me through that
Okay.
person representing X, Y, or Z in my life?
Okay. So intriguing. I've got so much work to do now, but I'm a lifelong learner. I'm going to be learning forever. So this is just one more topic that I can focus on. Something else that you do that has intrigued me is knowing the difference between tarot card readings, for example, and oracle readings. You do oracle readings. What are those?
I do oracle reading. So I call myself an oracle. An oracle is somebody who is a seer. I see things, feel things, hear things, and just know things, which is called claircognizance. I think that claircognizance is coming more online these days. More people are talking about it. That's my number one.
Okay.
Clair is claircognizance, just knowing things. I do use cards. I
Mm-hmm.
have oracle cards. So tarot cards are set up. It's that baseline tradition that started several hundred years ago. And now in this generation, this day and time, we have oracle cards. It might be angels or fairies or nature spirits or something like that. It could be colors
Okay.
or numbers. And I do use those either to get myself started or to kind of validate what my natural intuition is bringing in for me during the reading.
Okay. And so, what can you tell people when you do an oracle reading for someone?
Goodness gracious. I can do a general reading where I just start picking up on information, or I have people ask me questions. I also work through dialogue. As you're talking to me, information starts coming through. So I can relay that information through to you as you're telling me
Okay.
your story as well. I've had many, many different questions from one spectrum to the other. So anyone who has anything going on can come and we can have a discussion about it. I really like to also empower my clients to learn about these things within
Mm-hmm.
themselves and to trust their own intuition and really learn that way, also to not be so dependent on me, but to have trust and faith in themselves and their own intuition as well. And I also like to say I don't really like to future predict because our decisions
Mm-hmm.
create our future. Do I think that before I
Right.
incarnated, I sat down and had a plan? Yes. But I also think that I can take a left turn instead of a right sometimes, and then come back to a central space like in my future. So do I see things every now and then? Yes, through dreams or through clairvoyance. But I like to leave the future to creation.
Nice. Interesting. I just wrote down something you just said that I'm going to put in quotes and it's going to go over my desk. And that's our decisions create our futures. I love that. That should be posted for everyone to see. That's a very profound quote. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Now, can things like oracle readings can they help someone who's grieving and how?
Yes. We all come to the table with pain and grief and curiosity and longing. It's a longing for our loved ones. And coming in for an oracle reading,
Mhm.
if spirit is around and wants to step in, they can. It happens quite often during this recording. I have been sensing that your husband is very much with you over on the left side there with his hand on your shoulder, coming in and out. I feel like,
Oh.
that's always happening. When I'm doing, these interviews, I'll see a hummingbird come up to the window sometimes or a butterfly fly by the window and I know
Mhm.
it's mom. So yes, when I'm doing readings for people, their loved ones do step in. I am able to give some information sometimes, not always, because it's up to spirit whether they show up or
Right,
not, or how fully they want to show up, how much
right.
information they
Hmm.
want to give me. But
Hmm.
yes, during a reading, I can sometimes relay information if they do decide to step forward and give me a message to pass on.
Okay, fair enough. And there are many times I also sense my husband is right near me too, and he was never very far from me when he was alive either. We were together constantly. So I also want to make a statement that for people that are really craving learning something or hearing something, to not necessarily be disappointed if you don't get what you want or what you expect, that it's not fair really to have expectations since we aren't in control of it. We're the recipient of signs and feelings and everything. Would that also be a true statement?
Yes, yes, yes. Don't be disappointed. Sometimes they're busy over on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
you know, doing something, and we don't have access to them. Or maybe there's another family member that's experiencing something and they're with them during their difficulty. They can travel
Oh,
around. And
yeah.
yeah, they're just as busy over on the other side as I think
That
we are
there's
here in real life.
yeah. Did you see the light bulb that went on over my head just then? They do. I mean, Tom and I, it was a second marriage, so he had and has other. I mean, he had his own children and everything, so maybe he's with them. So I guess maybe I'm being selfish, expecting to have him at my beck and call, for example. Or even my mother. She could be watching over my brother at the moment. That's a very enlightening statement as well, that it's not just all about us. We do have to share our spirits. Oh my goodness. This has been so amazing for me today. I can't thank you enough. We are, however, winding down in time. And although I don't always like that I have to wrap things up and say farewell to everyone because I really enjoy doing this podcast, I am kind of excited to go start checking into a few things as well.
I love that.
So before I wrap up for the entire episode, I do, Liz, want to turn the microphone over to you and let you speak directly to the listeners without me interrupting with comments or questions, things like that. Let them know what services you offer them, where they might find you, and things like that. So it's your turn. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I am an intuitive energy worker. I also do readings. You can find me at raisethevibewithliz.com. On raisethevibewithliz.com, you can also find my courses and my podcast, also called Raise the Vibe with Liz, and anything else you would like to learn about me. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this, time with you. This has been a really fun conversation, and thank you to your listeners as well for sharing in this, time with me. And, look up raisethevibewithliz.com. Oh, and my book, Mom Died Last Night, My Shared Death Experience. It's a memoir of death, grief, and afterlife communication. You can find that on Amazon and also my website, raisethevibewithliz.com.
That's super. And I'm going to be having a copy sent to me pretty soon. Liz, I can't thank you enough. You have offered me so much information in this very, very brief chat, but I am just newly excited now about this whole possibility. And I also feel so much more comfortable about it and about being open. And also, I think my expectations have been clarified a lot. That don't always expect if I want it, I can have it right now because, gosh, the person I want most to connect with might be busy. I get
I love
busy,
that.
so they might as well. I know, but I never thought about it until just now. So you've really, really helped me a lot. And I also have this new quote that I love. I collect quotes. So our decisions create our future. It's not karma. It's not everything laid out for you. You just have to find it. It's whatever decisions we make. It's going to change things so much and so many more things. I may just have to invite you back again.
I would love that. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's been my pleasure, totally. To our listeners, we talk about self care a lot. Part of that is recognizing what you need, when you need it, and then how to get it. So one of the things I try to do with the podcast is offer you resources, offer you possibilities. If something in today's conversation has resonated with you, I really, really encourage you to connect with Liz. And as always, her contact information will be in our podcast notes and on the website. If for some reason you can't find that information, just reach out to me by email and I will get you that information. I will make that connection for you. That is, for me, half the battle is not just finding a resource, but finding a resource that you can connect with. I think that is just as important as everything else. So I hope something from today's podcast has made you smile, made you feel a little bit more comfortable, and just know that your loved one that you lost is there. You may just not be receiving it. You may not be understanding the signal. Maybe you're just busy or they're busy. So think about it, focus on it, and I know it'll happen because I already feel like I have a lot more in store for me. On that note, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again next week. Come on back as we all continue to live and grieve.
Thank you so much for listening with us today. Do you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, or do you have a question from one of our episodes? Please email us at info@asiliveandgrieve.com and let us know. We hope you will find a moment to leave a review, send an email, and share with others. Join us next time as we continue to live and grieve together. We are you.